We love supporting and promoting the creators of musical theater throughout the world, and we would love to have your support as well. Go to musicaltheaterradio.com and click on the Become a Patron button because a supportive community is a strong community. Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanov. Now, the Segal Center for the Performing Arts is doing a production of the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater's show, The Sages of Chelm. I think I got that right. So let's head to Montreal and talk to a couple more Canadians and talk about the show and the production and everything that goes along with it. I'd like to welcome to the show Stephen Maclean Rogers and Jake Cohen. Jake, Stephen, welcome.
Hello.
Awesome. So now, before we get into talking about the show and its history and the production of it and everything, I want to get to know you guys a little bit better and get the guests to know you as well. So Jake, we're going to start with you. So the 30-second bio of Jake Cohen. Who is Jake in 30 seconds?
Oh gosh. Okay. Hi. I am an actor here in Montreal. I've been living here my entire life. I trained at the theater school at Dawson College. I graduated in 2020, which coincidentally was the year where this production was supposed to originally go up. So more on that later. And I'm really excited to be on stage with the Segal for Chelm before I head off to NTS in the fall.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. And Stephen, now that you know how it works, 30 seconds. Who is Stephen?
Oh, that's such a deep question. I moved to Montreal in 2013. I'm from Guelph, Ontario originally, and I work in production. I'm the company manager for the Segal Center for Performing Arts. And so I work in production, and I just wrote my first show right before the pandemic. So I'm officially a playwright now. This is my third or fourth Dora Wasserman Yiddish theater production. So that's a lot of fun.
Very
and
nice.
Former tree for all that. There.
Perfect. So let's talk about the Sages of Chelm. Let's get a synopsis of it. Who wants to take care of that?
I'll go for it. So the Sages of Chelm is sort of a mashup / new interpretation of a bunch of old Yiddish folk tales about this fictional town of Chelm. And the background of it, which we lay out in the prologue, is that when God was creating the universe, he was distributing wise souls here, foolish souls there, and he sent an angel out with all the foolish souls. The bag of foolish souls gets caught on a mountain, and they all go into this one town. So it's a town full of these fools that consider themselves the most brilliant sages of their time. So they're a town full of the sages of Chelm. And the actual story of the show starts when my character Menachem, who's a traveling musician, sort of stumbles into this town of sages of Chelm, and he falls in love with a girl there. So it's that love story.
Very nice. That sounds just so much fun. It just sounds so funny.
It is a blast.
Awesome. So I'd love to know, because I understand the show's been around for a while. So I'd love to know more about the company, the theater company, Dora Wasserman, and the show itself. Stephen, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I mean, the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater Company has been around since 1958. It was started by Dora Wasserman, who was a Ukrainian Jewish immigrant, and she came over and she directed, I think it was upwards of 70 productions in her lifetime. Just a powerhouse of a person. And so the history of this show, it's as Jake mentioned, there's a lot of folklore involved in it, and so it's kind of there's a lot of different stories that have kind of morphed and come together to form this kind of catalog of Chelm tales, and so this just takes some of them and speaks to some of that. But it's a long, rich history of both the production and the company, and so it's a lot of fun to come together and just kind of tread the boards and with this background in mind.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you said you've done a few productions?
Yeah, my first production was actually within 6 months of starting to work at the Segal Center. I got cast as in Soul Doctor, which was the first one, and then I did the producers, and we actually did a gala for Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater. But this is the first time that I've actually had dialogue completely in Yiddish. Normally, there's a lot more English involved, and the Yiddish is more on the song side. But this is, except for about 4 words, I think exclusively in English.
And Steven's lucky enough to say those 4 words, so.
those are probably the easiest ones to memorize. Right?
Yeah, he got those right away.
Nice. So Jake, Jake, do you speak Yiddish? Did you speak Yiddish before, or is this something you had to learn for the show?
No, it's something I had to learn, and it was a little bit of a scary thing when I started, which is kind of how I knew that I really wanted to go for it. I spoke Hebrew when I was younger. I'm Jewish. I was raised in a big Jewish family. And then I kind of got public schooled. I forgot all my Hebrew after my bar mitzvah. So when I had the chance to do the show, I saw it as a really exciting opportunity to sort of reconnect with that aspect of my background that I had kind of lost touch with. So it's been, we all have Yiddish coaches, for especially those of us that are maybe not as familiar with the language. And we really have meticulously some of us more than others. We won't name any names. The coaches, they'll sit with us and they'll really like meticulously pick out each word and define it and show us where the stresses are. And it's a lot of extra stuff in the process, but it's really genuinely so much fun.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I know I've had to learn like a song where it's in a different language and just try to process that, but it's like usually French or something's a little bit close or something we already have. How close is Yiddish to, what you already know? And what was it like to wrap your brain around that, Jake?
There's some very obvious Hebrewisms, but the thing about Yiddish is that it's a diasporic language. So because it came out of Jewish people scattered all over Eastern Europe and North Africa and all over the place. So there's so many different dialects, and like there had been meetings about this show of like, okay, what dialect of Yiddish are we using? And that changes a lot of things. So there are aspects of it I recognize from Hebrew, and then some things that come in from English or other Eastern European languages. But the thing that makes it accessible to me, and I think to audiences more than anything else, is that it's a super expressive language. Like it's an onomatopoeic language. It's like you can really, just from the sounds of the words, you can really get a vibe of what's being said, and that makes it, like, I think, perfectly ideal for theater. So I was able to access it a little bit, but I don't think that audiences will need to access it. I think it's fun to just listen.
Nice. What about you, Stephen? Did you have, was it pretty easy for you? Did you have difficulty? What about yourself?
I think that's a question better answered by the Yiddish coaches, to be honest. It's as Jake said, it's such an expressive language, and it's impossible for me to speak in Yiddish without smiling. It's such a joyful, and you really have to get into it and really work it. But yeah, it is a challenge because the emphasis isn't right on the right syllable, all the time. And so, and there are so many different dialects and accents, and my character plays somebody who's has a different way of speaking from the Chelmers. And so there was a brief conversation about, okay, well, what dialect would he be speaking in? But it's such a rich, fun, and so many of our expressions, like schlepping or schwitzing, that we use in English come from Yiddish. And it's only through these types of productions where it's like, holy smokes, I've been using this my whole life and had no idea, we're gonna go have a nosh, like that's it all comes, a lot of it comes from Yiddish, which is really fun to discover.
Jake, when you first heard about the auditions, how did that go about, and what do you bring in as an audition piece for something like that?
Well, so for my audition, I was given like the prologue of the show to learn, which is about 30-40 second paragraph in Yiddish. And so for the show, we don't have to read Yiddish characters, like Hebraic characters. It's all transliterated for us.
Mhm.
So it's almost sounded out in English lettering. So that makes it a little easier to learn. And then they were just like, bring in a song, bring in like a minute and a half of what have you. And the song did not have to be in Yiddish, but they did want to hear me speak in Yiddish. So I went and I spoke to my grandmother and I was like, can you help me with this, please? And she was like, you are crazy for thinking that you could do a whole show, but sure, let's do it. And yeah, that's how that happened.
What song did you bring in? I'm curious
Oh my
about
God, I don't even remember. I knew almost nothing about the show. I think it was like some old like Cole Porter song.
that.
Like I
Okay.
was like, just like a jazz standard should do
Yeah.
it. And there's the music in the show is very like klezmer inspired, so it turned out to be the right call.
Nice. And Stephen, you are pulling double and triple duty, as the company manager and being in the show and all that. How has that worked out for you?
The commute is fantastic. I go from my desk and walk upstairs, so that's really great. But I think the double duty award definitely goes to Trevor, the director, who's really gone above and beyond, not only just doing directing but stage managing and choreographing. Like he's the one that's wearing all the hats. I'm just so I'm humbled by his efforts.
Yeah, we all are.
But it's great, like it's another aspect of the Segal Center, I guess. Normally I'm on the company manager side of a production, which is very often brought in from, or like created like a brand new work. And this is really nice to kind of get back to the heart of what the Segal Center grew out of, as in the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater. So it's really nice to kind of connect to the heart and the community of what where the Segal began, in a sense.
Yeah, from talking to a number of people at the Segal, it feels like you have your roles as in the company itself, but then you get involved a little bit deeper, and it is kind of a family atmosphere where you do a little bit of everything within the theater.
Yeah, I think theater in general both requires and attracts the type of people who wear different hats and like to jump into the unknown and kind of figure things out. And yeah, I mean the Segal is definitely the same type of place. We have a great team. A lot of us have been together for almost a decade now, which is pretty special.
Wow.
And we've been surviving a pandemic together. So I think that's pretty special for
The show has survived a pandemic.
The show has survived a pandemic. Yeah.
So Jake, your character, was it easy to jump into? Do you relate to it a lot?
Well, at the beginning, actually, very much so, because his whole thing is he's the outsider. He's new to Chelm, and the Chelmers don't necessarily trust him. And I definitely felt a little bit like an outsider, speaking Yiddish for the first time, doing Yiddish theater for the first time. Not that I wasn't welcomed incredibly warmly and gracefully, like this is all me thinking in my own brain. But I was like, yeah, I can see why on the outside looking in, Menachem really kind of falls in love with the town and wants to be a part of the community, because I had a similar arc in my own journey through this production of Chelm.
And is there anything within the show that you've taken away from it? Any lessons you've learned, Jake? Well, and then I'll ask you, Stephen, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that what you get with a folk musical that comes from folklore is often like the same kind of morals that you get from any kind of fables. So a lot of the themes of the show are about simplicity and connection to nature and music. And there's a big theme in the show of modernity versus tradition, and how can we marry the two things. And as I mentioned, like, this show for me was a chance to get in touch with my own cultural traditions, and some parts of them that I was really excited to discover, some parts of them that I was having a little more trouble reconciling with who I consider myself to be now. So what I've taken from the show is that it's possible to keep old traditions and move forward at the same time. That's the big thing for me, I think.
What about you, Stephen? Anything you've taken away and learned from the show?
Yeah, I think, like Jake just said it beautifully. And I also think, I think especially coming off of a pandemic where we've been so isolated and separated, to kind of to come back and play this role within a community of very wise, very sophisticated people, and so not only to play it on stage, but also to have that kind of sense of community again backstage, and within the cast and the crew. For me, that's really been a big reminder of why theater is so important to me and to so many different people, because at the end of the day, it is really all about human connection. And that is that's something that I've for sure taken away from being able to be back.
I think that like this show is all the good things that you think of when you think of community theater. Like the company is such a community, and there is such a wider audience for the GWIT that is so excited to come back to the theater with this show, and we're so excited to meet them and grow that community. So yeah, all the good things you think of are definitely here.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
It's such a joy, like it's a joy to rehearse, and it's a joy to watch, and the music is fun, and yeah.
So when is it running? How can people go see it?
Stephen, company manager.
Yeah, Segal hat on here. So it's running June 19th until 26th, which is coming up, and you can go to the Segal Center .org. That's SEGAL, and then center, the Canadian spelling, RE, and you can or call the box office at 514-739-7944. Or reach out to us on Facebook. I'm sure we're friends.
I'm glad I asked you to do that, because I did not know the box office number off by heart.
It's taken me at least 6 years to memorize.
I'll get there.
I hope I got
it. So if in 5 words, before we say goodbye, in 5 words, Jake, how would you describe the show in 5 words or less to yourself?
I would say Chelm vermaakt een grote kop.
Nice. Now I've got to get Google Translate out. And Stephen.
I would call it mechanizatie, technocratie, electrificatie, progress, and forwards.
Yeah, definitely got to get it out now. All right. And I will leave my listeners to figure it out for themselves. I don't want you to translate it. I want to figure it out.
We will translate it for you at the Segal Center with our English and French super titles. Can't go without mentioning those. We want to make this as accessible as possible. So you will learn all of those words in the theater.
Nice. Very nice. Jake, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on and telling me a little bit about the show and introducing it to many more people out there.
Thanks
so much for having us. I can't wait to meet everyone at the theater.
No problem. No problem. So we were just speaking with Jake Cohen and Stephen Maclean Rogers, who will be in the Segal Center's production of The Sages of Chelm. Tune in next week as we'll be speaking with another guest or guests about their life, love, and passion that is musical theater. I'm your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.